I'm double checking.
Eating the apple.
Say, action.
What is WIC? WIC is a nutrition and breastfeeding education program
That gives families the information they need
to make healthy food and lifestyle choices.
Our goal is to reduce nutrition-related health problems and achieve positive changes in participant knowledge, attitude, and behavior about healthy lifestyles. In addition, WIC refers and links participants with physicians, other healthcare programs, alcohol and drug abuse treatment, well baby care, family health, family planning, and social services programs. Selected foods are provided to supplement diets lacking in nutrients for pregnant and postpartum women, infants, and children under 5.
WIC is a real beneficial program for families who are not able to afford the foods that they need for their children to grow strong and healthy, or the moms as they're going through pregnancy.
It helps them out financially. I mean, of course, inflation, you know, everything's getting higher.
She wasn't getting the nutrition. Now I'm glad her nutrition has gone up. And it's gotten better, because I know we were having a problem with that, but that helped her out.
The WIC program really helps, especially when they're this small.
Your store has made a commitment to give WIC families access to the healthy and nutritious foods they need to grow strong. And this is where you come in. A good retailer-participant relationship is essential to the program's success. You will be helping WIC shoppers purchase good, nutritious foods to keep women, infants, and children healthy. Your knowledge of WIC will help make transactions go smoothly at checkout.
I enjoy helping people to make healthier food choices, just to make their lives a little easier, healthier, and happier. I would say WIC customers are important because not only are they purchasing items on the WIC program, but they're also purchasing items throughout the store that necessarily aren't on the WIC program.
Remember, one of the benefits of participating in WIC is receiving supplemental foods. Participants use WIC checks to purchase WIC-allowed foods listed in the approved food guide. But it's also good to know that when a WIC shopper comes to your store, they're not only using their WIC checks, they're spending their own money too, as much as $3 to $4 on non-WIC items for every $1 spent on WIC foods. So get to know your WIC customers. They are people just like you and me, people who want to make sure that their kids get the right nutrition. We'll start with a quick look at the training process every WIC participant goes through when they join the program. Your customer has learned how to verify the use dates on their WIC checks and how to complete and sign the checks correctly. They know how to use the food guide and the prescribed foods list printed on every WIC check to shop for the things they need. And they know that no purchase can be made if they do not have their WIC ID pouch with them at checkout time. Your customer has also learned to keep all the WIC foods they've selected separate from the rest of the items in their cart. This should make things a lot easier for you both. They know to introduce themselves as a WIC participant when they enter your lane, and they should say something like, "I'll be using my WIC checks today." That's how you'll know that you'll be doing 2 separate transactions, one for WIC foods and another for any non-WIC items they might be buying.
They usually say, I have WIC, so then they put that on the conveyor belt.
I like to separate things out and make it easy for the cashier to go through. So I separate everything out and usually set the checks beside the food.
Now let's take a look at the things you need to know to carry out a smooth WIC transaction. Up front, you'll want to remember that confidentiality is very important to a WIC shopper, so never announce a WIC participant. Just process the transaction as you would any other. If you must contact a supervisor for WIC transactions using an intercom, just ask for assistance at your register. Before you start scanning items, ask your customer for their WIC check. Locate the use dates on the check and make sure that today's date is on or between the first date to use and the last date to use. If the date is valid, you can start checking out. Oh, and don't forget to ask for coupons. They are allowed on any WIC purchase. One by one, make sure each item they've selected is listed on the check as an allowable food. Your store will only be reimbursed for the items listed on the check, so no substitutions or other non-WIC approved foods are allowed. If the item is listed, go ahead and scan it. Once you've checked and scanned the last item, hand the check back to the customer and tell them the total amount of purchase. Your customer will then fill in the total amount, date, and sign the check. Ask your customer for their WIC ID pouch to verify the signature. The customer must sign the check at the time of purchase and not before, and you cannot accept the check if the shopper does not have their pouch at checkout time. One other thing, a WIC participant may have an alternate shopper who can shop on their behalf and use and sign their check. Could be the participant's husband or boyfriend, mother, grandmother, or other trusted person. Check the WIC ID pouch for verification of the alternate signature when they sign the check. If everything checks out, the transaction is complete. You'll follow the same procedure for each of your WIC customers' checks, and you'll complete a separate transaction for any regular non-WIC purchases.
They'll give you their pamphlet, and you have to make sure that everything they have is what's in their book and go through each transaction, how it's supposed to be, and treat them like any other customer.
It's kind of nice having those relationships with families that come into the store because you get to know them on a first name basis and you get to know them by face, so you can wave at them and ask them if they need any help. I think sometimes dealing with WIC can be an intimidating process because if it's not done correctly, then the store does not get reimbursed. So just being sure again to ask those questions, find out what the processes are, and make sure you're following the right procedures when doing the WIC transaction.
A WIC fruits and vegetables transaction is similar to a regular WIC transaction, but with a few important differences. The fruit and vegetable check has a maximum dollar amount assigned to it. Look for it. This will tell you the maximum amount your customer can spend on fruit and vegetables. You'll also notice that there are no specific items listed on the fruits and vegetable checks. This means your customer can pick out almost any produce to purchase with that check. Remember to refer to the approved food guide to learn more. Now simply weigh and scan approved fruits and vegetables. If it looks like the total will be more than the amount listed on the check, let your customer know the store policy on how to handle the difference owed. You can complete the purchase as is and return the rest of the produce to the store, or you can include the rest of the fruits and vegetables as part of a separate non-WIC purchase. Some stores will allow the customer to pay the difference. Just check with your manager for your store policy. Complete the transaction just like you would a regular WIC transaction. Ask your customer to fill in the total amount of purchase and then sign and date the check. That's it. Last thing to keep in mind, your customer may buy fewer items or use less than the amount on the WIC check. They still fill in the exact total amount of the purchase on the check. You never give your customer cash back for any WIC transaction. Part of your job is to make sure that your WIC customer receives only the approved WIC foods prescribed for them on their check and shown in the allowable foods list. Don't worry, it isn't as hard as it sounds. The WIC approved food guide explains in detail the foods your customers can buy with a WIC check, and you'll find the correct amounts and sizes of items prescribed for your customer listed on their WIC check. Be sure to keep the newest WIC approved food guide at your checkout lane as a reference. That way, if you have questions about a size or need to verify an item your customer has selected, you'll have the answer right there where you need it. Let's take a look at all the nutritious foods listed in the approved food guide. WIC foods may include a variety of fruits and vegetables, milk, cheese, cereal, whole grains, 100% juice, soy beverage, beans, eggs, peanut butter, canned fish, baby foods, cereals, and formulas. All approved foods meet strict dietary requirements and offer a variety of nutrients. As for quantities allowed, let's take a look at milk as an example. Your customer's check will give you the number and size of containers allowed. For items like cereals and whole grain products, the check will list the maximum number of ounces that can be selected. The guide also lists the brands from which to choose approved foods. Most foods, peanut butter, milk, beans, and eggs to name a few, are allowed in any brand. Other items like tortillas, bread, cereal, and juice are allowed only in specific brands. The guide also explains approved choices on certain foods. For example, the guide says that it's okay to buy peanut butter that is smooth or crunchy. The not allowed section tells you the types of foods that WIC does not allow. Baby food with added sugars, for instance. Fruits and vegetables are handled a little differently. Remember, the items they choose won't be listed on the WIC fruits and vegetables check, so you need to have a good idea of what's allowed. And that's almost everything in plain, fresh, and frozen fruits and vegetables except white potatoes, herbs, spices, party trays or salad bar items, dried or pickled items. Well, you get the idea. By the bag or by the pound, fresh, frozen, organic, whole, cut, or sliced, your customer can buy any combination of approved fruits and vegetables.
It covers all 5 of the major food groups and provides healthy nutrition to mothers and young children.
Our kids love to eat fruits and vegetables. Since they were infants, I've introduced them, their first foods were usually vegetables.
The WIC program encourages new mothers to breastfeed infants. Fully breastfeeding women who do not receive WIC prescribed formula receive the largest amount and variety of foods. Mothers who do not breastfeed receive a formula prescription printed on their infant's WIC check. Make sure your customer has selected the correct formula by matching the brand and UPC listed on the check. No substitutions or exchanges are allowed. Mistakes happen. Even experienced customers and cashiers make mistakes every now and then. Just remain calm and professional and keep these suggestions in mind. If your customer selects a non-approved item or grabs the wrong brand or size, just explain that they can only buy the items listed in the WIC approved food guide. Tell them that the item can be exchanged for the correct selection. What happens if your customer forgets to bring their WIC ID pouch? Well, tell them that you cannot accept their check or complete the transaction without it. If your customer presents an outdated WIC check, explain that you can only accept WIC checks with the correct dates. Let them know that the store will not be reimbursed for WIC checks processed outside valid dates.
You'll want to look at the name is the same. Expiration and issue date is very important because they have come in and it's not ready to use yet, or if it's expired, they can't use it.
Just explaining the transaction to the customer, being sure to be very complete and thorough, and helping them understand why they can't purchase an item if they have an item there that doesn't qualify under WIC, and just staying calm and professional and not getting overly excited.
Usually they always have somebody walking around that if you're standing there looking confused, they'll come up and ask you if you need help.
You don't have to be nervous, just take a deep breath in. It's pretty easy.
An error made on a WIC check should be corrected while your customer is present. Ask them to verify that the wrong amount was entered, then draw a single line through the incorrect total, write the correct amount in the space above, and initial. Finally, items purchased with WIC checks cannot be returned for cash or exchanged unless defective, and only the exact item may be replaced. In other words, you may not provide unapproved foods, cash, credit, or rain checks in exchange for WIC checks. Your professional attitude will make all the difference in a WIC transaction. Do everything you can to make your WIC customer comfortable, and always treat them with the same respect you give your other customers, regardless of race, color, national origin, age, sex, or disability. Your store has made a commitment to give WIC families access to the healthy and nutritious foods they need to grow strong. And the relationships you build with your WIC customers will help make this program a continuing success in your community.
Thank you.